Maria's works here. High business. Derek was working in the Eastern Cape for 5 years. Then he acquired a house up in May. And it's called a Chawa. A real house out there. Then we had to take something to the Western Cape. And he agreed on condition that we don't take his plan. We agreed. And the first surprise I had when Kuwait, thank you. Biggest surprise. Every time I met him, he always up and fighting all the time. He's getting a hot deal, he must get better, he must get more. At least today he said thank you, even if he said there are many other things. I know they will be very, very many. One of the things I always said to people in the Western Cape, I work in trading here, I must also tell you that all the business. I go to all the business. I always tell the people of the Western Cape that one of the things that irritates me as a person is when colored people regard themselves as a minority. As a minority. It irritates me all the time. Let me tell you why I say so. I say you can't be part of a majority and all of a sudden become a minority. Not unless you have not defined your role correctly. If you don't define your role correctly, you will be a minority. You know, after if you want everybody can be a minority, people sometimes talk of amateurs as a homogeneous group. There is no such a homogeneous group. There you find many minorities. Abatembo, Bomataleka, Amanika, Amamvenu, Amakwate, Amamumvan, and so forth. If they want to define them small, they become a minority, all of them. But once they begin to appreciate the power of being part of a majority, they define themselves as part of that majority. And that is the fight I always had. The second thing that I always fought is the definition of a color hides many things. The diversity of the people of the Western Cape, it hides them. And create a homogeneous group called color. And I said, you'll find that there are people who are from different origins. Yes. There will be people who are descendants of slaves from East Asia. And there will be people who are descendants of the Khoi. And there will be descendants of the San. Because Khoi and San are not the same. And we normally hide that reality totally under this word called colored, which seeks to have a homogeneous group that is treated badly, that is a minority. And I think one of the things that we should have as we continue engaging is to talk to those relatives. Talk to those relatives. And I always say this to Marius. We had our own fights with him. And the biggest fight I have with him is that this myth has made the Western Cape to belong to opposition parties. And I was explaining to our people in Mfuleni out there yesterday. I said to them, do you know that we never won the Western Cape since 1994? And people were shocked. He said, but Rasul was a premier and so forth. I said, no. See, it was a stock fair. Stock fair. We never won the Western Cape. It was a stock fair, you know, because we had to be in coalition with somebody or somebody or somebody all the time. We have never won the Western Cape. And I said, the reality is that the Western Cape has never tasted a free South Africa since 1990. And to me, that is the biggest challenge that we must confront. Is that the Western Cape must take that freedom and take a decision. What do they want to do with it? You know, the first premier here was Herman Scare. Herman Scare. The current premier is Helen Zek. Now, you call yourself a minority. You are governed by minorities all the time. You give this power to minorities all the time and you call yourself a minority. And I say it's a mindset. We must liberate ourselves, take our heads out of it, and appreciate that we're part of a majority. We're working with a number of complaints. And I complained to Trevor, I complained to many of them, I complained to the group of president. One of the things that will kill us is that the activism in these communities that we saw under the United Democratic Front is no more. There's no younger generation that is emerging in numbers. And that is the biggest problem. I'm not worried about you, Peter. Even if you feel oppressed, you have oppressed, you've been oppressed for many years. You don't feel it anymore. But once there is no younger generation that comes through to take up the cause, you must know that you are indeed an endangered species. It's not what happens now, what pertains today, that makes you an endangered species. It is the reality of no younger generation emerging to stay up the cause and play their rightful place. You know, when Trevor was made a minister in the presidency for planning, there were many complaints that, yeah, he's good as a minister of finance. And I said, no. The reason that you said to Trevor, I want to talk about Trevor because you can relate to that. Because as Triple B, you want to talk to that. I want you to come. Triple B plus one. And people said, yeah, it's a small portfolio. I said to them, no, it's not a small portfolio. We go to Pulugwana in the 57th National Conference of the ANC and we say, listen, we can't live a hand-to-mouth type of life. We must have long-term planning. We set up a national commission, planning commission, and we say, we don't need a person, we don't need a warm body. Let's look for a person who will make it happen. And everybody agrees, Trevor will make it happen. We give him that responsibility. He produces a national development plan. Which everybody embraces. Now even Derek, you opposed it at the beginning. He loves it now. It's fine, say it's fine. He produces it. He first of all produces a diagnostic report and he say comment on it, here is it. And he produces a plan. And he has set a foundation for long-term planning for the country. Now, what is it that is minor about that? What is it that is minor about that? He hardly states he's a chairperson here. If there is a problem in Madagascar, we send him. And he doesn't know why, you see. And when there's a problem in Egypt, we send him. When there's a problem in Syria, we send him. He has never asked us why, and I'm not going to explain here today. I'm not going to explain this today. And I ask my question, what is minor about that, Marius? What is minor? So, you can bash us in all respect, but one of the things that we are not going to do is to give colored people presents. We're not going to do that. We are not going to get that. Colored people must play their role and earn responsibility. They must earn it among all of us. And you don't need to ask for that space. It is there. It is there. It is there. You know, all of them were from the Frequent Royal House. They say so. With a different battle with the recognition and establishment of that kingdom. And with a similar fight with kings in the Eastern Cape that were not recognized, like the king in KwaZulu. And all those things, we run into those problems. And I always explain this in simple terms. I say, you know, under apartheid, there was no Khoi tribe, whether it was Frebo or Nama, and they were all not recognized. And I said, that is not by accident. It's because after the first war of resistance in 1657 by the Khoi people, that was followed by a Khoi San genocide. That's what followed that war. That war, sometimes in our history, we're told of the 9 wars of dispossession in the Eastern, the big thing, 9. Nobody had ever talked about the first war of resistance in here by the Khoi people in the main, and San joined in. And that war was followed by a genocide. So in the vocabulary of the colonizers at the time, there's no Khoi, there's no San. They were all, they are extinct, they were finished through that genocide. People must appreciate the fact that the ANC says no, no. There are people call it the Khoi, and the people call it the San. And they must come up and stop fighting. This is half the time when you bring them together, they fight about who is the real one, who is not real, and so forth. Stop fighting about that. Sort yourself. Your three is clear. Don't ask the government to sort the 3 for you. Sort it yourselves. But all the time when they can't agree, they want government must sort that. The government says, we're committed, we'll recognize you. Tell us exactly how your 3 stands. Who is the chief? Is there a kingdom? Where is it located? We say so. When we go to the stadium, they give us the same fight. We say, listen, apartheid destroyed kingdoms in the Eastern Cape and relegated those people into paramount chiefs. I don't know if you remember this. Paramount chiefs. And multiplied them. Matanzima, who is not a king, made the paramount chief equal to Danjebo, who is a king. And then they multiplied all these paramount chiefs because dividing them and let them fight among themselves gave the colonizer the power. Now, once we appreciate that, our mindset will be different. We'll understand that we are re-establishing what was destroyed. And it's not going to establish today be at the same level as Zwelithini in KwaZulu, whose kingdom was left intact all the time. It's the only kingdom in South Africa that was left intact, alongside the kingdom in Swaziland and the kingdom in Lesotho. All the other kingdoms were destroyed. So we must work together to rebuild them. That's our responsibility. I'm leaving that. The gentleman, they said, I'm here to understand why should you vote for the ANC. I can tell you, there's a very simple reason that people should vote for the ANC. And that reason is also a reason for not voting for the ANC. Is that from 1994 and now, this country is different. We've changed it for the better. I can say that with confidence. That one is one thing that makes me proud. The economy in this country, when we inherited in 1994, 16 years before 1994, the average growth was 1.5%. 16 years after 1994, the average growth of the economy was 3.3%. Now, it's not me who says so, it's a man called J.P. Landman, who is not a friend of the ANC. But he can't deny facts. He can't deny facts. He is supposed to state them because he is researching, and research is scientific. And that's why the GDP of this country has grown threefold in the last 20 years. I will talk to the question of employment around that. You can go to education. One thing that we're insulted about is where's quality and so forth. It's quality because it was graduated. There was quality education for a white child, followed by an Indian child. There was number 3, low, a colored education for a colored child. And very close to it, Bantu education. What we have done in the ANC, the Comrade Town, is that we have equalized education. Actually, a man called Maybeck, who conducted the research as well, not friend of the ANC. I'm not quoting ANC documents, have you noticed that? Quoting everybody else except the ANC. Says, one of the things that the ANC has achieved is to equalize funding for a child in schools. And equalizing it is at the level, in real terms, not in nominal terms, where the funding of a white child was under apartheid. And it cuts across the board. And the ANC allows every child, irrespective of the economic status of a home, to go to school. See, if that area is poor, it will give you an no-fee school. That's why 80.1% of learners are in no-fee schools today. That is the extent of free education, 80.1% free education to poor, targeting poor areas. Leave the model C schools where people have comfort of going there, pay and have extra. 80.1% of schools are in no-fee schools. That's free education. And I'm from communities where we appreciate even the question of the child support grant, because that child support grant that keeps a child eating up to 18 is coupled with a meal a day at school. And it keeps a child from a poor household at school as long as they can. Once they pass, they go to university, they find NSFAS there to study. And that is the reason that there were 150,000 black students in universities in 1994. There are 750,000 today. There are 750,000 today. Total of students grew from just over 300,000 to 938,000 today. Now, I'm giving you a reason why you should go to the ANC.
I'm listening.
And that gives a child, I have an SMS now, or so gets released. This child is in Site C. She sent me an SMS because I've been working here. Secretary General, please, I'm so and so, I'm staying in Site C. I'm a second child of 3 children from an unemployed single mother. First of all, thank for the ANC that I'm having BA Human Ecology degree. I don't know human ecology. She tells me, this degree in human ecology. She's from a single mother who is not working. Is the second. She has a degree because the ANC kept him at school until 18, took her to university, is now having this degree. But I'm unemployed. And we're talking on some state, but the ANC is pulling hard here. It must give him a grant, it must give him a meal a day at school, it must take him to university, it must now look for a job. Now, all I can do with that SMS is to circulate it to people who are employing people. I employ nobody. I stay in the Tule house. I employ nobody. Hey, Maria, do you know this thing called human ecology? Even though I say, but this young graduate, can you talk to this young graduate? That's all I can do. And that's why people should vote ANC. You know, we've committed mistakes in the process. And we're owning up to those mistakes, Peter. We're owning up to those mistakes. We're not running away from them. One of the mistakes was on our confusion on HIV and AIDS. One of the biggest mistakes we ever committed. We are owning up. That's why we changed that. And within 3 years of actually appreciating what we should do, the life expectancy in this country has increased by 4 years. Within 3 years. And both child and infant mortality has improved dramatically. Mother to child transmission of HIV and AIDS has been reduced by more than half. Now, because we're owning up, we're not running away. When you listen to a chap called Aaron Mtwaledi talking about something called National Health Insurance, he is now coming and saying, no, this is a wrong term. Because it doesn't define what we should do, because there is Americanization of health in South Africa. Healthcare is being Americanized, you pay through your neck because you have a medical aid. And then we go to private hospital, you pay 101 times more than what you should be paying. And he says this thing must be called universal access to quality healthcare. That's what it should be. Let's call it by its name. And must support it to introduce that. And he says the target should be the poor end of society. Because this thing, Americanization, is targeting 16% of society who access 84% of resources. Must support it. And it will be successful if you have a reason to vote for the ANC and support it. Now, I can give you all
no, I tell you what, I love what the minister is doing in terms of giving access to health to everybody, because I agree with you that the small minority has got access to all the resources. I see it every day. I fully agree.
Let me sit down, because I can take any other area. I grew up in a big city in the Eastern Cape called Ghana. It's a big city in the Eastern Cape, it's called Ghana. It has grown, it used to have 7 wards, it's now every 9. 7, 9 wards, it's a city in the Eastern Cape. One of the things that always excites me when I go home is that one thing that you take for granted in Cape Town, I have electricity in the village. That's it. I have electricity in the village. And it's not in my village, it's in every village in the area. So when you travel, one time I traveled from the cemetery at night to Kala. There was light in every village, and I was saying it's like the time when during the time of creation, when God said, there shall be light, and I call it a day. Because light is everywhere. There's electricity in every village. I travel from Lusilisigi, Port St. John's, Libot, and Meleni, Dada, Nobo, Tala. There's light everywhere. And only when you do that will you understand this thing of taking electricity, access to electricity from 39 to 84%. You only see it when you travel at night. That is what we have done over the last 20 years. I can talk water, I can talk anything, I can talk everything. There's backlog of housing, almost everywhere. But you can't take away the fact that there's been an effort of building houses. 3.1 million new houses have been built in the last 20 years. But the more you build, I always explain this about deep slot. You want to sit down. I say when you see a protest in deep slot, a journalist put it slightly saying it's service delivery protest. And I said, no, it's not service delivery protest. It's service delivery impatience protest, because in deep flows we've built 13,000 formal structures from an informal settlement. But there's 10,000 that is still outstanding. And that 10,000 is impatient. And that's what happened. And it is not our business to say to people, be impatient. Our business to say, please, please, we're coming. We're going to build these houses and build them. When you go to Alexander in Joburg, it's always cited, here is Alex. It's as bad as it was. And I always tell people that, if you go to Alex, there's a river there called Tuskegee River. Across it, there is a township bigger than the former Alex. It's called East Bank. People forget now that there was no East Bank in 1994. There was no East Bank in 1994. There is East Bank now. It's a full-fledged township. I can give you all the examples like those where we have done what we should do, resources permitting. And that commitment is there in the ANC. We do it when people love us, and we do it when people don't like us. Because we don't think it should be for people we like. We should do it because it's the commitment that our predecessors made. I want to leave you at that. You can ask me questions, but I can tell you that they will answer all the questions. I will pick up what they are not answered. That's it. But I can tell you that our commitment to the cause is much bigger than people imagine.